Everybody, it's me, Therese, and I wanted to talk to y'all about something today. Paranoia versus preparedness. Now, in generations, you have friends and family members and even employees or even bosses that kind of like hit you with like life is gonna do this to you. Life is gonna do that to you. Life is gonna hit you with a curveball like this, and there's no way you're gonna be ready for it. So that's nice. I know you mean well when you do that, but it's not really constructive. It's not really helpful because one way you could really make a difference in that person's life when you do that is you can prepare them. This is preparedness versus paranoia. You can tell them, hey, if you set this particular amount of money aside or a certain amount of money aside, when an emergency comes up, like hey, you get into an accident, them rates start going up, and then like now you have to start paying more for certain things for your car, and you got to fix your car. If when you work, you set aside like, let's say for example, um, every day you work, you get paid $100, so to speak. You don't get it directly, but at the end of the pay period, you get $100. Um, so let's say it added up to $400 when the week was out or when the 2 weeks were out. Set aside like 10% of that, which would be $40, to go straight into like savings. So like in doing so, if an emergency were to come up and you've been saving it for a couple of days, and sometimes you feel inspired to be like, let me put like 20%. So you put 80 in there instead of just 40. Um, so now you got about like $2,000 just sitting in like a savings account because you were just like, you know what, I'm just gonna do that because it feels right. When an emergency comes up, it's not gonna kick your back in. Like if you had to go to the ER, that when the person with the little computer comes around and talks to you, hey, what's your name? Last 4 digits of your social, like all that stuff. When they say the total is gonna be, you can go, okay, cool. Let me just move some money over into my checking account, and they'll be like, because like we might be like, oh, I don't really have like insurance like that covers this particular medical thing, but I do have some money set aside. Those types of things. Because sometimes you also get like the paranoia people, and they mean well, but like their own childhood didn't allow them the knowledge or afford them the knowledge, and their parents probably didn't either, to like love yourself first and like do for yourself first. And if we really want to talk about like the biblical stuff, because people talk about biblical, what's biblical sometimes. I'm gonna give y'all some knowledge. Proverbs, the book of Proverbs, seems like a bunch of like little parables and a bunch of little like quick sayings that make sense, and they're like witty and stuff like that. It's like, that's deep. Proverbs talks a lot about money, like a lot, and like setting up money for your posterity, like generations to come. Proverb talks about like, hey, set money aside to the point where when you have kids, they ain't gonna have to worry about any emergencies, um, or any certain things. If we like in the Bible, especially Lot, it talks about how he had so much like cattle and so much resources that him and Abraham couldn't live in the same place because it would have basically, the resources they had were overwhelming to the society that they were in. So like, hey, let's share some of the wealth and let's not like overdo it, so to speak, in this area because we have so much. Let's kind of like distance ourselves so that like that's legit. That's there. Um, but setting up so much that you'd be able to provide for your sons and daughters, nieces and nephews, maybe, or even grandkids. Um, and don't feel ashamed if that's not something you were able to do, or it feels like that's not something you can do right now. But literally, it is the thought that counts. Because those little things that you do for them, those little things that you give them, the little things that you buy for them, when they didn't ask for it, they might have asked for it like 2 weeks ago, but you couldn't get it 2 weeks ago. But now you got a little enough um, in this pay period. You worked a few extra hours, or maybe a double, or you can get them that one little thing they asked about. That means the world to them. And that's that prosperity type of stuff the Bible talks about too. Even though it was in depth like that, but that little thing right there makes a difference. That inspires them to be like, hey, I know mommy and daddy, because kids are smart. Kids are smarter than we give them credit for. They're like really smart and they're wise. They pick up on stuff and they They will hold you accountable. Kids will hold you accountable. They will. Um, and they will make you feel very responsible for whatever it was you did that was against your character, because kids will build your character faster than any adult will. Because sometimes abusive situations and hurts and pains deep down inside won't allow us to grow into our full potential, because we're hurting and we haven't healed yet, and we haven't met that person that can help us heal. We haven't set aside time for ourselves to rest so that we can heal, which was in my last video I was talking about. But kids will hold you accountable, but in doing so, they will do it in a way where you're just like, you self-reflect, you think about how you feel in that moment, where you want to be so that moment never happens again, and what you can do to make a difference so that maybe it won't ever happen to you. But if you're really like paying it forward type of deal in your mind, you're like, yeah, I'm not gonna let anybody I'm connected to ever feel that way or ever have to deal with something like that. Like that right there is like, that's true Elohim type of stuff. Like that's like, we're all in this together type of stuff. That's the unity that you feel deep down inside, and it feels like, wow, God, that was intense. Like, that's the kind of stuff that makes you feel warm and fuzzy inside, but like on a different level. But anyway, preparedness versus paranoia. Give people tools. If you're a person that prepares people with paranoia, give them tools on how to fix those issues. Give them tools on how to prepare themselves to not have to run into those issues. And preparedness. If you're one of those people that are preparing people for things, continue to do so. Continue to inspire people. Continue to be the Martin Luther King Jr.'s in your relationships, in your circles, in the lives of other people. And you will inspire other people to do the same. And keep trying. And the people who are like, not the Martin Luther King Jr.'s, but the other ones that are kind of like, people are standing up for you and you want to let them. And hold on one sec. But those like people, the Martin Luther King Jr.'s in your life. If you're one of the people who's quiet and can't really stand up for yourself, but those Martin Luther King Jr.'s are standing up for you, let them stand up for you and support them in the background, especially if it seems like your abusers, which sometimes are your bosses or the friends inside of your circle, or sometimes even like it could be family members. Support that Martin Luther King Jr. in your life that's standing up for everybody in whatever circle you're in, quietly, so that you don't ever have to deal with the direct backlash that comes to that MLK Jr. You're able to reap the benefits that are coming from that person standing up for you. And when the fallout happens, when the damage happens, it doesn't just, when it does hit you, you don't feel alone. You know that there's somebody with you. You know there's unity. You know that there are people standing together against whatever this is that's really damaging everyone. So hold on to those people. Support them quietly if you have to. And openly if you feel like you've now grown into your character, you've now grown into this person where you can stand up for yourself a little bit. Support them openly too, if you can. But do so with discretion so that you can protect yourself and the people you care about. I love y'all so much. Y'all take care and keep growing. Remember, be the person that prepares people rather than the person that paranoids or makes people feel paranoid.